What's up, y'all? What y'all doing? Let's get into it. Let's talk. Let's go.
Cause they gon' call me firecracker when I pop off. They guard is what I'm having. All these bitches caught off. I'm a real bitch.
Now, usually I would have just strung together all of the topics that I'm going to be releasing today in one video, but I decided to do it separately because I don't know which ones I'm going to use for real. So I just separate videos to be saved, and we can talk about it. But before I get into the topic, y'all already know House of the Dragon just came out. The review of the first episode will be going up on my Avatar Adrian channel. That is youtube.com/Avatar Adrian, so you will want to check it out. Patreon.com/Adrian Special, y'all already know. So Tevin Campbell officially came out, and y'all already, I feel like I've been singing can we talk for a minute? I've been singing that for years on my channel at this point. So, of course, when I seen that news, I was like, I want to talk about it. But then we got into people's reactions to it. Now, of course, overall, the reactions was fun. They were very welcoming and accepting, blah, blah, blah. So let's just get that out the way before someone comes in here talking about, oh my gosh, Adrian, you're over here focusing on the negative responses or the responses that you didn't like, but he got a welcoming response. Yes, I know that. I understand that. But what I'm saying is I saw some of the responses that were annoying me, right? And I think it's important to keep in mind when we're talking about queer artists and when we're talking about just queer people in general coming out, right? Let me read you what he said. Apparently he came out on a podcast or something, so I'm gonna just read you this article real quick, what he said. So he said, when I came out to my family and friends at about 19 or 20, that was it for me. And then I went on the road of discovering myself. I didn't know who I was. So Campbell said he didn't try to hide anything about himself or act quote unquote straight, but acknowledged how difficult it was to be publicly gay in the 90s. He said he was glad he gets to see queer stars such as Frank Ocean and Lil Nas X, and noted how affirming their success is for young black boys still discovering themselves. He said, when we can get to the place in society where somebody can just say, yeah, I'm gay, every person in the world isn't straight. Get over it. When you get to a point in your life where you love yourself so much and you don't give a damn what people say or think about you, that feels so good. So it seems like we're all a bit understanding of what his story is. It lines up with a lot of other queer celebrities, queer artists, queer people in general, where it's just okay, he started his career, he wasn't really, I think he said something oh, he trisexual or something like that. But in general, he started his career just laying low, trying not to, just because we all, especially the 90s and shit, we all know what that did to someone's career, like I said, especially back then, still now, but especially back then, we all know what that did to someone's career when they come out talking about their sexuality, blah, blah, blah. So he laid low, kind of hid away, did his thing though, laid low, hid away, and that was it. Like many other artists, many other celebrities, queer people do. I guess now in 2022, he decided, okay, well, why not, right? So that's the story. And it's just so weird when people come up here talking about, oh, well, girl, we already knew all that information. We knew that. And it's different, I think, even though, you still shouldn't really be saying that shit. But it's different, I think, when it comes from the queer community. It's oh, okay, girl, come on in. You knocking on the door, we already seen the shit, come on in. Of course, you can have your debates about that, but I think that's different than cis hetero people coming in here telling, oh girl, we already knew that. That's the information that he wanted to tell us. We already knew that. But cis hetero people y'all were the reason why people like him have hid in the first place. So it's just weird okay. So take this for example. If I'm a queer person and I'm over here struggling, I'm hiding my sexuality because of the world that I live in. I'm just keeping people at arm's distance, trying to navigate this homophobic ass fucking world, right? So then after years and years and years and years and years and years and years of dealing with that shit, just fighting with myself, fighting with my own beliefs, fighting with society, fighting with what society wants me to do. After years and years of navigating that, dealing with that shit, figuring yourself out, like I said, you end up coming out, right? You say, okay, I end up coming out. I said, you know what? I've reached a new level in understanding myself. I've reached a new level of just identifying what I will tolerate and what I won't. I have built up my self-esteem, I know who I am, and I'm coming out. And then you watch these same people who were part of the reason why you hid in the first place. You watch some of these same people turn around and tell you, oh girl, we already knew that shit. Of course, we're talking about a celebrity or someone who is a grown ass person. And so that will affect that person in different ways. But when you're talking about queer youth, regular ass, everyday citizen ass queer youth who are sitting around here hiding who they are, right? And then when they come out, y'all the same ones gonna tell them, oh, we already knew. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Oh, you should have told me. That's when oh, why didn't you tell me? Listen, if you created a space where the queer person in question felt like it would do them no harm to tell you that they queer, they would have done that shit. You see what I'm saying? I don't understand how people will build the very same closet, watch your ass twirling around in that closet, and when you come out that hole, they're gonna say, oh girl, you know, I already knew. And it's just like, you already knew, and you watched this person suffering and you didn't say shit. You already knew, and this person is going through turmoil. You could see it all over their face. You claim that it was already revealed to you, and you're watching this person deal with that shit, deal with the struggles of this world, deal with the struggles of being a black queer person in this world, and you're just like, oh well girl, I'm just gonna sit back. And I know, like I said, obviously we don't have a personal relationship with Tevin Campbell. What I'm saying is, for the queer people that you do have a personal relationship with, if they come out to you, I really don't think, especially if you're somebody who sat and just watched their ass and didn't do shit, you kind of figured that they were, or you already knew that they were, and as this person was being crushed by the society around them, you didn't say a goddamn thing. And then when this person comes up to you and say, hey girl, I'm queer, that's when you want to say, bitch, I already knew. I'm not trying to hear that shit. I'm not trying to hear that shit. So you mean to tell me while I was going through all this shit, you already knew, you know what I mean? And I was sacrificing parts of my personality, sacrificing all types of shit about myself so that people around me could feel comfortable barely around my ass. And then so now out of all that shit, years of doing that shit, you gonna tell me, oh well girl, yeah, I already knew that shit. It's like, to me, that's not helpful. To me, that's not helpful. And I brought it up on Twitter as well, because after Luther Vandross passed away, people gonna be talking about, oh yeah, girl, he was gay. Oh yeah, girl, he was gay. I know there was like big celebrities. I don't know if I can think of one in particular. So I don't know if I should say plural, but it seemed like after Luther Vandross passed away, everybody gonna start talking about people close to him, all that shit. Go talk about, oh yeah, girl, he was gay, blah, blah, blah. He went through a lot, da, da, da. And it's like, okay, like, I don't know how to feel. A lot of times, these kinds of stories, I do not know how to feel. Because it's like, on one hand, someone like Luther Vandross went his entire career, his entire life, trying to hide some shit from society, trying to hide some shit from the music industry, trying to hide his sexuality. I mean, we talking about your career at risk. I'm sure your safety at risk when it comes to that shit, right? So it's like, and then now, after he done passed away, after he done did all of that, after he done suffered through and dealt with and tolerated all that bullshit, it's like people come out of left field talking about, oh yeah, girl, Luther Vandross, yeah, honey, he was gay. It's just like, I don't know. Like, I feel like y'all need to just put some respect on these queer artists, period. And that's why I talk about these issues as much as I do. It's because, you know, if you claim to support this person's art or music or whatever it is, or whatever they're doing, it's like, put some respect on their name. Put some respect on their name. And like I said, I feel like this, I be talking about Lil Nas X and all these other queer artists and shit. Like, I feel like it's so important for us to continue these conversations and to demand the respect, to demand it. Because I'm not gonna be sitting around here. Can you imagine the same kinds of people who are dragging the shit out of these queer artists in right now, 10, 20 years later, y'all talking about, oh yeah, girl, that was nothing. Y'all was hiding that gay shit for no reason. Blah, blah. It's not that serious. Yes, it is that serious, because y'all trying to tear down people's careers. Y'all trying to tear people up, even now, for being queer. I think overall what I'm saying is that those kinds of conversations, just to me, these kinds of comments and responses to someone like him, anyone coming out, they're just not useful, right? Especially because you can put all this, oh yeah, girl, I already knew that, I already saw it, I already knew you was gay, I already knew you was queer. Like, you can put all that energy into making sure that people, like that queer people who are out feel comfortable today, you know, or even if they are not out, you can make sure that what you're saying about queer people, how you interact with queer people, what you're doing when queer people come up in conversations, like, you can make sure all of that shit makes sense, so that if someone is queer around you and you have no idea, you can be, if they so choose, you can be somebody that they confide in. And you can be someone where people won't be afraid to be themselves around you, instead of just waiting until years and years and years just after someone that dealt with all the homophobic bullshit of their life, you know what I mean, to come around and say, oh yeah, girl, you was going through that shit? Oh, you should have told me, girl. It's just, I think it's so trivializing. And I know, I said this before, I know that we're kind of comparing like the responses of a celebrity, to a celebrity coming out, to like how to deal with somebody around you, close to you, maybe in your family, or whatever, friends, queer, whatever, queer coming out. In general, I know that those situations are different, but at the same time, I saw some similarities in how some, you know, they were talking about Tevin. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, all these things shouldn't be a big deal, right? It should be just like, oh yeah, girl, whatever, it's fine, whatever, we already knew. You're queer, it's fine. Like, people are, it would be one thing to speak like that and that's how the world already is, right? It would be one thing to speak like that and that's how society already is, like, oh, it's not a big deal. But it actually is, and that's why people hid in the first place. You see what I'm saying? Like, it actually is a huge deal. And I mean, no shade, but a lot of heteros will never let us forget that shit. So I don't know. I think the best way to go about this shit is to be supporting the artists while they in it. Don't wait until these artists have already had a nice career and done what they had to do and lived how they had to live in that moment to be like, oh, well, girl, yeah, no, it wasn't that big of a deal. Yes, it was. It was a big deal. Because y'all would have, heteros would ruin people's careers if they queer. So it's like, I think it's easier in some cases for some people to just ignore the shitty parts of life in general, right? It's so much easier for people to be like, oh, well, that's not a big deal. That's not an issue. We already knew. It's easier for them to say that shit than to face the type of crazy, nasty shit, bullshit that they have forced queer artists, especially queer black men artists, to live in. It's easier to just brush the shit off. Oh, it's not important. Oh, we already knew. It's easier to do that than to actually look at what these queer black men are facing, which is why I love P-Valley, which is why I love how pissed off the Murder and Cliff gets y'all, because it's like, no, this is what the pain and shit that you see on Murder's face and everybody, this is what y'all doing. A lot of people are doing to queer black artists, black men especially. So instead of all that, oh girl, we already knew, just show your support and shut the fuck up. That's what I feel about the situation. I just don't like it being passed off as like, oh well, it almost like an easy thing for him, like, why didn't you do this a long time ago? It's just, I don't like the trivializing of that shit, because the same people jumping up for fake joy today were the same ones trying to end these motherfuckers' careers yesterday. It's like, make it make some sense to me. But anyway, I would love to know what y'all think about that topic. I knew I was gonna rant a little bit about it, so I was like, let me just do a whole entire separate video on this. Let me know what y'all think. Love y'all so much, and make sure that you have a good goddamn evening.
Can you fuck me in your all black Mercedes? You can take my soul, just let me be first lady. But I won't sacrifice this pussy for a maybe.